passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Matt Miller. Matt spent the first 9 years of his career as an Air Force pilot before entering the private sector to work in both the medical device and advertising industries. While a top performer in the corporate world, his long-term desire was to be his own boss. A good friend one day mentioned the gumball machines he and his young daughters owned, and that conversation began a 10-year business quest that has brought Matt's company, Spirit Vending, to the cutting edge of both the vending and school fundraising industries. Today, Spirit Vending's franchising program provides a proven and profitable business system for busy professionals and their families looking to develop secondary income streams with a limited time commitment. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to speak with you because, first of all, I love what you're doing in the franchise space, but it's fascinating to me with Spirit Vending. I don't really know much about it, so I'm excited to hear about it, but it seems like it's got a dual purpose, which I love, and it's got a very social conscious purpose, and so I really, really love that aspect about it. But before we dive into that, maybe to add on to the introduction, tell us a little bit about Spirit Vending, how you got the idea, and then how you developed it into sort of a franchise model.
I got started in vending, Josh, about 10 years ago. Had a bunch of stuff happen corporately with my job that impacted my family's income in a big way, and saw the writing on the wall and the fact that the corporate gig was not going to get me where I needed to go financially and kind of get me out of the hole that I was in after coming out of the military. So started to do some things on the side. I sold books online through Amazon and Alibris and half.com for a while. My son and I collected aluminum cans, did some multi-level marketing, did a number of different things. The challenge with all those things was I had read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a couple of years before. So I measured every single one of those businesses against what Kiyosaki talked about in relation to passive income. And in every one, I was just creating another job for myself. So I was continuing to look. I had a good buddy of mine from church mentioned that he and his daughters had bought some gumball machines, and it was a way that they could do something together. He was teaching them about business. They were making some money. And I remember that conversation. So I decided to get started in the bulk vending world, initially with candy and gumballs, eventually moving into toys and temporary tattoos and stickers and that type of thing.
So let me stop you right there. So when you make that decision to get involved in the vending world, what were the next steps that you did to sort of research that? I think it's important for the audience. I mean, there's a lot of people listening in who have all sorts of ideas and thoughts and visions and dreams of what they want to do, but so often that's where it starts and stops. And obviously you're different, and you've been able to take your vision and turn it into a business. But what was the first step that you did after you formulated this idea?
I did a bunch of research. I read, probably 4 or 5 books, most of them ebooks off of Amazon talking about vending. Decided that bulk, which was, the toys and the candy and all that, was the best place for me. Number one, the machines were easy to operate. There was no electricity or circuit boards or anything involved. They're also very, very inexpensive. But most importantly, the capacity of the machines was very, very large, meaning the equipment didn't need to be seen that often. So I could go 30, 60 days in most cases, set the machine up, let it do its thing. I'd go back to doing my full-time job successfully. But on the side, there's money that's being created with quarters being put in those machines all across the Houston area at that point in time. I got with the state comptroller's office, found out about sales tax, that type of thing in my state. I got with a local bank that could handle my needs, that being, large volumes of quarters. and slowly and systematically put those things together. I got a DBA. We ended up getting an LLC later on once we transitioned to the fundraising side of things with SSV. But just a lot of the basic business stuff, which quite honestly, several years before was kind of scary to me because it was an unknown. Today, it's just like, oh, okay, I got to go get a DBA. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that even those little things are holding them back because they seem such insurmountable tasks just because they're different and they're not used to them.
So did you start this while you were working at another job is what?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I put this thing together, for 5, 6 years on the side. In fact, there was one point in time here about 5 years ago where I was working full time. I was delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut at night because I needed more seed capital for my business.
Wow.
And I was putting, SSV together. I was burning the candle at both ends, but I had to do what I had to do given my situation and knew that being that busy was not going to be that case always, just for a season in my life.
Well, so take a minute to explain for those that don't know and for myself as well. Tell me the underlying business model for School Spirit Vending. What is it that you do?
Well, what happened was I had 4 young kids come knocking on my door, selling me stuff for their local schools. I didn't know the kids. Their parents weren't with them. And I thought that was really odd that here they were essentially being door-to-door salespeople for the local school. So I wondered if there's a way I could tie vending into what they were doing and maybe get some kids off the street. So what we did is, with my print media background, because I was in the advertising space for 11 years, I figured out a way to custom design school spirit stickers for the schools. Initially, my thoughts were for the high school and junior high kids for athletic events, temporary tattoos, that type of thing. But what we found out is the older kids didn't interact with the machine, but the younger ones did. So we pivoted, and most of our work is done with the younger kids today. But what we do is we custom design stickers for schools. We customize a machine that goes in that school for them, so it fits right in with everything else they've got in the building. And then we put those custom stickers in the machine and then whatever else the kids are into as well. It ends up being an ongoing passive fundraiser for the school, and it ends up being a passive income stream for our franchisees.
That's so fascinating. Is there another vending company doing what you're doing? Because I've worked with several of them, and obviously the traditional type of vending model is food based, but yours is school spirit based, and I think it's really, really interesting.
We've got some small operators here and there that dabble a little bit in our space, but to be honest, we put so much extra time, energy, effort, and investment into making this be something special for the school that to date anyway, I haven't found anybody willing to go to that length to do business in the space that we are.
Now you mentioned you found better success with some of the younger kids. What kind of age group or school range do you look for?
Primarily elementary schools.
So probably up through what? Probably up through 6th grade.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, it's interesting, Matt, talking with you because, I've taken some notes down and jotted that, you've one of the things I really appreciate and I think is a good lesson for a lot of people out there is you've taken a lot of your past experiences and things that you've gained sort of knowledge and experience from, i.e. your print media background, your marketing background, the discipline you gained from your military experience. And now you've turned that in and utilized those skills to now create a profitable and growing business. And I think that's really instructive because I think a lot of people are searching for that right idea or for that right concept when in reality, a lot of times we just need to look back at our own experiences and to figure out what those synergies are. And those can align well to be the basis for a business going forward.
Yeah, I've always heard it said that success is when opportunity and preparedness meet. And I didn't know that God was putting me in the place that he was putting me to teach me advertising and printing and all those things. I could have never fathomed that, but you're right. I've found things that I've got knowledge in, and then we found niches that have a real need and just built on those. And it's exciting what's going on. I'm excited about the team we've got coming together. You know, there's a bunch of people out there, like you mentioned earlier, that want to do something for themselves, but they don't really know how. And in many cases, a business like ours or the thousands of franchises out there may very well be the best fit for them because they don't have to figure it out. They just have to be willing to duplicate a proven system to their own success instead.
So how many franchisees do you currently have?
We officially have 13. We started out with a distributor model because we've been doing this for 8 years.
Okay.
So I've got about 55 families that we work with. The majority of them are in the process of transitioning over to being franchisees. But we have started actually, franchising directly above and beyond those folks as well. By the end of this calendar year, we'll have 40 plus franchisees and have a whole herd of new folks that we're talking with right now that look pretty promising to qualify and to get started with us here going into the new year.
Now, you had mentioned you started in Houston. Are you outside of Texas at this point, or what number of states are you in?
Yeah, we're in about 26 states right now, in a couple thousand schools.
Wow, that's tremendous. It's interesting because a lot of people that I end up speaking with try to, with this kind of a model, try to start with a distributorship, just a straight distributorship, and then eventually do switch over to franchising. What was the impetus for you to make that decision and that sort of pivot into the franchise model?
The biggest thing that I found was that I wanted to systematize this thing more so than the distributorship model would really allow. And in a lot of states, Josh, as you know, especially in the Northeast and out West, there's a lot more strict and stringent guidelines on the state level to where registration of businesses is required and that type of thing. And I just realized if we wanted to grow to our fullest potential here in the U.S., we really needed to be a franchise so that we could register in those states and do business, following the rules and guidelines that they have established for businesses within those states.
So now, do you have a team that's helping you go out and market the business, or are you out there promoting it and trying to, in other words, how are you finding your current and future franchisees?
This is going to sound probably a little bit crazy, but right now, these podcast interviews are our main source of marketing. We have plans. I've been talking with a number of different marketing companies that specialize in brokers that specialize in the franchise side of things. And going into next year, we will start working with some of them. But here's what I've found, and here's what is so powerful about interviews like this, is the fact that when people reach out to us, they already feel like they know about us. They feel like they know me. There's already a relationship built there because they've listened to me. They've had a chance to hear a conversation like we're having now. So in many cases, people are already pre-qualified by the time they reach out versus just somebody through a search engine or whatever, doing a search and coming across our website. There's a whole new level of education that has to occur on the front end for them to kind of get up to speed. With what I'm doing so far, they already have a pretty good idea what we do and how we do it.
No, I could not agree more. I mean, I think you and I share a mutual friend in, probably several mutual friends, but Tom Schwab being one of them. And he's got a whole business model where he goes and helps people become good podcast guests as a business development mechanism. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, I know for myself, when I started this podcast 2.5 years ago, I just did it because I thought it'd be fun and cool and, something different. And I can't tell you the number of calls I've gotten from people from different states who are ready to hire me. And when I go to tell them about myself, they'll say, "Oh, I already know all about you. I listened to the podcast."
Right.
So,
yeah, well, I had done I had done probably 20 interviews or so. And then I came across Tom and his course. I took his course and it completely changed everything because it showed me how to capture that interest in the audience and to begin a dialogue with those people. Whereas before it was just, hey, if you want to talk, shoot me an email type thing. And so that has been a huge, huge thing for us, is me coming across Tom and learning, all that he has to share in that course.
Well, that's great. No, Tom's a great guy, and I know he's doing great things with that course. I'm going to actually have him back on to talk about that again on the podcast, because I think it's beneficial for a lot of people. One of the things I've learned in franchising is, especially for the starter franchisors, who obviously you've been doing this for a number of years, but there's a number of entrepreneurs who are just turning their business into a franchise or starting down that road. And, there's a lot of brokers out there. There's a lot of third-party vendors that will happily take your money, and a lot of it, to try to market yourself and get you out there to the public. But what I have found time and time again is that slow and steady wins the race. I think the numbers prove that out. I think if you look at the vast majority of successful franchises, they have grown more organically, as opposed to, let's open up 200 stores over the next, or 200 locations over the next year or two. I mean, I really am a big believer in, you need to dominate your local area market and then expand out from there. And I think going on podcast interviews and doing those really intentional type interviews where you can talk about your business and reach an audience that's going to be an audience that's going to take it in a good fashion is really the way to go. So good for you for doing that.
Well, yeah. And what does it take? It takes my time, right? I've talked with several of those firms like you talk about, and here's the challenge. My goal is not to create a bunch of wealth for myself with the franchise fees. So, but that being said, some of the amounts of money that these companies are commanding to bring in leads and qualified candidates and all that is pretty crazy, to where, for me to actually begin to work with some of them, I'm actually going to have to increase my fees just to be able to afford to pay for that marketing. And I'm not prepared to do that right now. We're very low cost in the whole franchise game, for a reason, because I want there to be a low barrier to entry to folks, because I started with a very low barrier of entry years ago, and I've seen what vending to begin with and now SSV has done for me and my family. And I want to make it accessible. And of course, every time those fees go up, you're limiting the number of people that can potentially get involved and thrive in a system like we have. So that's kind of a quandary that I'm sure every franchisor deals with, that we're wrestling with right now. But that's also another reason why I'm so much of my focus is here versus with some of those other things.
Well, I mean, you want to grow. Obviously, every business wants to grow, and there's maybe a time and place for those third party brokers. But yeah, I think you're doing it the right way, especially as you're getting going and fine tuning and going through the expansion part. And it sounds like you've already got a ton of interest. So now it's a matter, it seems to me, of you making sure that you're getting the right people interested and attracting the right people. And I think tying into that, who is the right franchisee for School Spirit Vending, if you had to describe them?
In most cases, it's somebody who is already wildly successful in their career, but they're not satisfied. They realize that they've got all their eggs in one basket and want to spread that risk out. They want to diversify their income streams, not just their, investment portfolio. In many cases, one of the things that folks are attracted to our business by is the fact that we've got a huge focus on the family and family involvement in business. In fact, one of our mantras is family is our foundation. My kids were involved in my business from day one, helping collate stickers, helping put machines together, you name it. My oldest two today are graphic designers because of our business, and support us and make a good, side income as students in support of us. But then we've got a lot of folks on our team that have, their kids involved as well. And now we've got the second generation getting involved because they helped mom and dad when they were in their teens. They came of age, 18 or older, decided that they want to pursue for themselves what mom and dad were pursuing. And now they've gone out and started their own businesses as well. And it's a real kick for me to see that. We have an annual, what we call conclave in June every year, where we bring everybody together and we conduct some business because that's why we're there. But we encourage folks to bring their families, and we spend a lot of the weekend just creating memories. And all of our kids now have gotten to accustomed to and excited about getting a chance to see their friends every year as they all kind of grow up together in this community that we've created.
That's tremendous. I mean, bringing business and family together, they certainly don't have to be in opposition to one another. So that's certainly tremendous. Tell me, if somebody is interested in learning more about the franchise or just interested in the concept and wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, my email, Josh, is matt@ssvbusiness.com. And what I'd love to do for anybody in your audience that's interested, I've got a free ebook. It's real short. It's just 3 or 4 pages. It's called Live Your Dreams, the top 10 reasons why you need to start a vending business. And if they go to ssvbusiness.com/euphoria, they can get that, download it for free, and we can at least start a dialogue from there.
Tremendous. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your time and coming on here. And it really, I deal with on a daily basis, I see a lot of franchises, and truly, I really, really appreciate what you're trying to do with School Spirit Vending. And it seems like you're off to a tremendous start. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedule and coming on. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. Hopefully this was helpful for you today. If you are in the market for a franchise, I would highly encourage you to check out my free ebook, which is What to Know Before You Buy a Franchise. You can head over to my website at that's INDY, franchiselaw.com, and download it there for free. And let me know what you think. If you're enjoying this podcast, if you're enjoying the value that you're getting from this podcast, I'd also invite you to go to iTunes and provide me with a rating and review. It always helps for visibility on the podcast. So thank you so much for your support, and hope this episode was helpful to you.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.